What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're taking a peek over here at the Bitcoin price chart. There was a ton of price action over there in Bitcoin yesterday. We'll dive into all of it. We'll talk about a tweet that I put out yesterday, and we'll try to solve the puzzle of the Bitcoin price chart like we typically do. Before we get started, I do want to mention partner of the channel, Link2, is running a Ripple FOMO promo today only. You guys may be familiar with this type of promo. They're giving $1,000 in XRP for every investment that is made into Ripple. So over here on Link2, they do private investing. Gives you the opportunity to invest in these companies before they go public. For accredited investors, you can click here to see if you can get accredited and go through the accreditation process. They do have more companies on here besides just Ripple, cryptocurrency companies, really. Ripple, BitPay, Dapper Labs, Uphold, BlockFi, Link2. You can invest in all of these pre-IPO over here on Link2, but the promo that they're running today is for $1,000 back in XRP for every investment made in Ripple. Now, you may have noticed in the previous weeks, it was if you used your Uphold wallet. So if you funded your account using cryptocurrency or USDC, this promo is regardless of whatever you do. If you use a wire transfer, using cash, or you use your Uphold wallet, doesn't matter. Invest in Ripple. Get $1,000 in XRP back to your Uphold wallet. Promo runs all throughout today, ends at 12 a.m. Pacific Standard Time over here at Link2. And there is a link to Link2 in the description of this video where you can invest in companies prior to them going public and get in early. But onward to Bitcoin. If you caught my tweet over there on Twitter yesterday, there were a lot of interesting responses in there. But my tweet was an absolutely hideous day for Bitcoin. It continues to provide unwavering evidence of its bear market structure in its bear flag. We'll dive deep in tomorrow's video, but anyone still thinking this thing is setting all-time highs again, we're living in different worlds. Of course, that's met with a lot of skepticism and a lot of frowns. But we'll talk about all of this going on in here, and we'll talk about something else that I've noticed going on in here as well that still continues to make me believe that Bitcoin is in a bear market. Now, bear markets have retraces. Bear markets have tons of different structures. We'll talk about all that stuff here in a minute. But essentially, there's if I could sum it up, there's probably like three camps of people out there. There's the people who think that, Bitcoin's going to go break out into new all-time highs. Ethereum's going to break out into all-time highs, and the altcoin market will follow along with that, breaking out into all-time highs, right? All that logically makes sense. Then there's a group of people who think, nope, it's just going to be Bitcoin. It's just going to be Ethereum swallowing the whole market. Maybe there's another altcoin here or there, but for the most part, the rest of the altcoin market is dead. It's just going to be Bitcoin, Ethereum, and maybe a couple others. All right, so that's camp number two. And then there's camp number three, a much smaller camp, that I think Bitcoin's going to do something similar to what we've seen happen in 2018 and in previous cycles, that there's one more run up remaining in the altcoin market. Bitcoin heads into a retrace. It's where the altcoin market can have an explosion. And then that kind of wraps up the whole cycle, but still no new all-time high for Bitcoin. So in the three different camps, two of them think all-time highs are coming in for Bitcoin. One camp, no new all-time highs. Now, then I guess you could also say there's a fourth camp out there, but that camp is probably gone. The people who think that, no, everything's in a bear market, everything is going to crash down. You would think that those people would have already left the market right now. So I guess we could call that a fourth camp, but those people are already gone. But when I made this tweet yesterday, I was looking at a lot of different things out here. One of the things we've been paying attention to over here has been, the bear flag that's been going on in here, this rising upward channel, along with seeing how these moving averages have completely rejected and broken for Bitcoin at this point. It was unable to close back above that 100-day moving average yesterday. That in itself, it has very little value to me. I don't really care about that. This right here, having this, major support area that's been a support and a resistance for the last year and a half, getting below that, it doesn't really have that much meaning to me, really. I mean, we do it all the time. But why am I like, hey, I still feel this is definitely a bear market? And that's because anybody who does Elliott wave counts, show me where the Elliott wave count is here for being bullish. There just isn't one. Now, I've always said bear markets can be incredibly difficult to navigate. I still feel that way, that they're incredibly difficult to navigate, and that, when you go into retrace styles, they can be all over the place, especially when we're just ranging. Ranges are designed to be chaos. Anybody will tell you that a range is chaotic. Trying to day trade any type of range is usually going to end up with a washing machine. It's going to end up with liquidations. It's not going to be a good time. But it's unquestionable to me that I see a big bear flag forming here, right? And this has been what my thought process has been for a long time, that, we're going to work our way up in here within this thing. And, it's going to be a long and grueling retrace working through here, right? So still continuing to do just that. And the thing is, there's people out there that I respect. They totally disagree with me. Totally believe Bitcoin's going into new all-time highs, Ethereum's going into new all-time highs, but I just don't see it. I just don't see anything bullish about Bitcoin in here. And that, best case scenario for Bitcoin that I see is getting a retracement. I can't for the life of me come up with anything that gets you into new all-time highs. And so the way I'm playing my cards in this market, whether it's right, whether it's wrong, whether I get to sell out soon or I have to hold on for years, that's just, the market's going to tell me which one I'm going to have to do, is that I'm holding until Bitcoin can get back into retracement levels. You get back up in here, hey, that's it. That's where I start selling off some of my altcoins, and then we'll see what the market does from there. That shouldn't be a surprise. Talked about that a bajillion times. That's how I'm playing my cards. Whether it's right, whether it's wrong, that's how I'm playing them. If the market goes tumbling down to the downside, what do? I'm still just going to hold and wait. Either way, I do not see any case of that. So one thing that I thought was really interesting is if we go back and take a peek at something that we've been talking about during this whole time period, the 6 months that we were following a fractal, if you recall, this whole thing. So when we were following this for 6 months in here during this whole time period, a perfect bear market structure that we had going on in here. Notice that we were following it perfectly. It was just kind of unbelievable in here. It still continued. Then finally, boom, it deviated away from it, right? But something interesting has kind of shown up over here, right? If you notice that we kind of have something very similar happening on over here. And it's one thing to just kind of take a fractal and say, well, we're just going to kind of ignore all of this. And then I'm going to say, hey, it's following it right there, right? I don't think it's fair to really do something like that. But what we can do is we can go back in time and take a peek at what was going on in here back in 2018. So I'll put us back on the daily time frame and we'll kind of shift over here and see what happened in here, right? So this is that time period. This is that retrace right in here. And remember, this is a bear market fractal that occurred in here after a retrace coming back in here. And what happened at that time? It came back in and it smacked right here into the 200-day moving average and then rolled over on itself. Well, what has been occurring over here in our current time period has been just that. Not getting the same distance as we're going on here and starting to deviate and change in here. But what occurs is it goes right back to that 200-day moving average and then does the same thing. So that's interesting to me. So I'm not here to say, hey, this is the end all be all. I don't think it's fair to do that when you have something like this completely changing in here. But what we know in this condition was this was a move back to the 200-day moving average. We know that this is a move back to the 200-day moving average. And well, they're sure doing something similar in here. So up to everybody to think if there's any value in that right in there. I'm not so sure that there is, but I wanted to point it out to you that it was kind of something that poked out to me yesterday as the price of Bitcoin continued to dip lower and lower and lower, that we had recognized that this had gone on in here for 6 months, matching the bearishness of Bitcoin back in 2018. Suddenly things started changing in here, but then finally it started to break out. And what do you see? We see similar price behavior showing up in here like we actually saw back in there. Going back and reviewing what happened in 2018, this structure was a move back to the 200-day moving average. And that is what we had happen here in current times, was a move back to the 200-day moving average and a similar move, right? So, is this thing even usable anymore at this point, right? I mean, I can't. I mean, I have to sit here and I have to say, well, see, what we do is we follow it like this, and then we start ignoring all of this, and then we shift here, and now we're still going to continue using it. It's just too hard to do something like that. So I don't think we're going to reference back to this really very much in the future. I definitely wanted to show it to you that, hey, while this thing got all sloppy and odd and broke away from it, then later it started doing it again, and it did it right back to the 200-day moving average. So everybody's got to say, is there any weight to that? Does it really mean anything? And the truth is, I don't know. But I did want to show you that was odd, that it started doing it back to the 200, just like in 2018. But for those who don't know, this was a fractal that we had to follow for a few months because we were pretty much stuck in it. There was nothing else we could do to say, hey, things are going to change at this point. Just kind of have to wait for things to actually change, because even from a time perspective, everything was happening right on cue for Bitcoin compared to the bear market fractal it produced back in 2018. Topping structure, the whole ride down that took several months to move its way down, everything was happening right on schedule. Finally, it did break away. So if you're seeing this for the first time, there's a lot of people here who had to see this way too many times. But there you go, getting a little interesting there to see something similar like that appearing. So for me to sit here at this point, right? So, when this was happening, I felt very stuck in it. I felt like, there's nothing that I can do coming on here to say, what do I think is going to happen with the charts while we were so stuck in this thing. It became a frustration point for me to be able to say something different is going to happen, right? Until something different does happen, you just kind of have to sit here and say we're stuck within it, right? And finally, once we got out of it, all right, cool, let's start taking a look at things. And so I have to ask myself the question, coming onto this YouTube channel every day, am I really actually going to be pulling this thing back up again and sitting here, and we're going to be going more like this? We're going to say, yeah. All this stuff did change, but we're going back to this now. I just, man, that's a tough one for me to say that there's in any way a reasonable way that I could say that that's what's going to happen right now. And the fact that it's put it in this position is incredibly irritating. But I guess we can talk about it today, but it's just something I just can't reasonably bring this thing up on my YouTube channel every single day and talk about this again and sit here and say, we're going to sit here and we're going to ignore all of this, but now we're going to go back to doing this all over again, and we're going to say that we're doing this still. But for today, we'll at least entertain it. And we'll say, well, what happens in this circumstance, right? In this circumstance of if this continues, if we have re-entered back into this thing that we were in for 6 months in here, well, then what happens? You got months of this. And then what happened in 2018? The thing plunged all the way down to losing 50% pretty much. So if you lost 50% in a plunge down in here, it's going to take you probably down to like 15K if you still continue to follow that. Do I reasonably think that that is what is going to happen outside of saying we're just going to keep following this fractal? That's the only thing that I could say that would reasonably happen, is that, hey, we exited it and we re-entered it. And is that a measurable way to sit there and say, this is how I'm going to statistically place my odds and my bets? Is that I can say with any type of reasonable odds or probabilities or anything to say we exited it, we re-entered it, and then now we're going to continue to follow it, right? Who's to say we aren't going to exit it again? I don't know. So I'm definitely tired of this fractal. I was tired of it a long time ago, and I'm definitely tired to see something like that show up again. But I definitely wanted to at least point it out to you, the interesting thing of how this retraced back to the 200-day moving average in 2018. That is also what occurred here, was that this was a retrace back to a 200-day moving average. So we'll move on from this thing. Oh, and let's also say this. If that's true, right? If that keeps going, that indicates no retracement, no nothing, just plunging ahead. Consolidation, grinding, ranging, and then plunging. And for those who were here in 2018, I was there during this whole time period right in here. This was not fun. Long period of sideways and then eventually plunged. So that's what occurred at that time. But now that I've provided you with a tweet saying that it continues to provide unwavering evidence of its bear market structure and its bear flag, and I've shown you this bear market fractal, and it probably scared the daylights out of you. Saying, dear God, blockchain backer, how am I supposed to sleep at night? I'm not capable of being able to fairy tale tell the future. But what I could do is I can go through history and see how things have played out before. That's what I've always done on my YouTube channel, try to show you guys all the things that have happened throughout history and how this market has behaved. The cold, hard reality is that we're still just within this upward rising bear flag, right? There's no positive wave counts. There's no 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s going in here, breaking out to the upside. I saw all of the stuff out there in Twitter Spaces, all the stuff out there on Twitter saying, hey, if we get through $45,000, that means that we're super bullish. It's a buy. Well, that has all just been deteriorated, right? So I think there's a lot of people out there who said, wait a minute, this is not what I was expecting, right? For this to be a bullish count in any way, that probably shouldn't have happened. So it still provides that even in the best case scenario here of this just continuing to march within this channel and it continuing to go on for a very long time, as the example that I've referenced to multiple times, and it's hard to say multiple, I would probably say 100 times, but that it still provides just a retrace coming in here, right? And I don't come on here to be a bad guy. I don't come on here to be the negative guy. All I'm trying to do is point out all the things that I see from the market, right? We know that Bitcoin's price chart, Bitcoin's market cap hit a 4.236 extension after spending 2018 through 2020 doing a consolidation pattern that typically reaches out to 4.236 extensions, where it crashed in 2018, retraced in 2019, and then reaccumulated in 2020, breaks out for a 4.236 extension. That's totally normal. After we get out there and after we get to the 4.236 extension, Bitcoin starts doing bearish structures. These are all bearish structures and reversal structures coming up in here. This is not me being negative or me being like, haha, doo-doo on Bitcoin. Dude, it was an awesome ride. I was bullish on Bitcoin the whole way up. I sold out of my Bitcoin. And then we're seeing bear structures everywhere. 2018 bear market fractal all occurring in here for 6 months. And then now we're doing bear flags like we see at reversals. That's not FUD. That's not me hating on Bitcoin. That's just what the chart's doing. So I don't ever want it to be interpreted that I'm out here to be nefarious or to be the bad guy, because for the last 5 years of my life, I've dedicated between 40 to 70 hours a week to cryptocurrency. It is engraved in my life. It is who I am. I spend more time doing this than I do anything else in my life. The last thing I want to be viewed as is somebody who's just coming on here to be a troublemaker. It's not what I'm here to do. This is my life. So I know that there's a lot of people that disagree with me. I know there's still a ton of stuff out there, coming up with every single thing to say that it's going to break out into a new all-time high. But just recognizing that Bitcoin's reached out to a 4.236 extension, did a 6-month bear structure from its previous bear market, and then now it's bear flagging in here with no positive Elliott wave counts, right? If we were going to be having some Elliott wave counts come out in here, what should we be seeing, right? We should be seeing that we should be breaking out into new highs. We should see that these waves should not be crossing each other right in here, right? Wave 4 should not be coming below there, and we should just keep on marching up, right? That would be a bullish Elliott wave count, but that's not what's happening in here, right? This is bear flagging, bear flagging. And so still, best case scenario I see happening for Bitcoin in here. And, whether or not I'm right or I'm wrong, who knows? We'll find out, right? But still, the best case scenario I have for it is just to continue marching sideways back towards retracement levels. It taking a long time for that to happen, but nothing in here indicates bull market for Bitcoin. Nothing indicates new all-time highs for Bitcoin. And let me say this real quick too, and it's directed just really towards a couple of people, and it's towards the content creators out there who do technical analysis. I see what goes on out there in Twitter. I see that people comment on your things and say, what do you think about what Blockchain Backer has to say about this, say about that? I don't ever put anybody up to that. I don't ever tell anybody, hey, or talk about a particular TA person by name, ever. I never, ever do that. There's no point in doing that. That's not in my character to do that, to pick out somebody and say this person is wrong and blah, blah, blah. And then let's go all bombard their Twitter and bombard their YouTube channel and say that they're wrong. I never do that. So I don't want anybody out there to ever think that I've put anybody up to doing that or that I've ever called out anybody by name. There's lots of differing opinions out there. There's lots of people who think that Bitcoin's breaking out into new all-time highs. That's fine. But I'm not here to be pinned against anybody else's analysis. Everybody's able to do their own analysis. That's the point of all of this. It's freedom, man. We can do whatever we want. It's just my opinion is differing than most. So I know it's difficult for some of the TA guys out there because they get so many comments about this type of stuff in their things. I understand what that's like. I get lots of those same type of comments from the other direction. I get them all the time. I've been doing this for several years at this point. I know what it's like to get all those messages pinned in there and people asking you about this person and that person. I know how difficult, annoying that can get when it happens so often. So to the other TA guys out there, I just wanted to show you a little respect. Even though I may not agree with any theses that you have, I'm not sitting here calling out anybody by name, and I'm not sending people over to contradict you or to challenge you. Just want you to know that. But I definitely think Bitcoin's in a bear market. And I think there's quite a waiting game that's got it's has now set itself up for, at least for Bitcoin. But there's been a lot developing over there, over in the XRP world, over there in the Ripple and the SEC lawsuit. So my next video is going to focus more on the XRP price chart and the altcoin market and the developments in the Ripple and the SEC case, because there was a major victory over there for Ripple. The judge absolutely acknowledged the inconsistencies over there with the SEC. That was awesome. We'll dive into that in the next video. It's positive for altcoins to prove that the SEC has not been clear in anything that they do. And how could there have been any reasonable clarity when the SEC itself cannot be reasonably consistent in anything it does, including arguing its points in a lawsuit? So we'll dive into that in the next one. Otherwise, for Bitcoin, I'm still just sticking with my hypothesis, so long as we're still residing within this channel, that long, grueling ride in here, so long as that 2018 bear market fractal hasn't gripped back onto the market again. And I'm still holding on for dear life with my altcoins. Because while I may not be a big believer in Bitcoin setting new all-time highs, you guys know my thoughts over here on the stock market and the Dow Jones, that I'm a believer that the stock market will go on and set new all-time highs. And for that, I'm bullish on crypto as a broader market. So on that note, we'll start to wrap this thing up. If you're not following me over there on Twitter, you can follow me over there on Twitter to get incredible tweets like that one I just showed you. There was also a ton to retweet out there yesterday regarding Ripple and the SEC. So if you're looking to kind of catch up before I put any type of video out, you can go check out my Twitter and see all the things that I retweeted over there with everything that's going on. Otherwise, again, that promo over there at link to for $1,000 back in XRP for any investment made into Ripple is for today only. You can check them out by visiting the link in the description of this video. And on that note, we'll wrap this thing up. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.